The worst year for a lot of us for our mental as well as physical health. So joining us this morning is best-selling author, coach, and fitness expert, Lisa Goldenthal.
Hello and welcome. I'm Lisa G, your host. You're at the top of your game, yet the game is changing faster than ever. Strategies that got you here aren't the ones that'll keep you here. The pressure is relentless, and the fear of obsolescence looms large. That's why I'm here. Welcome to the new podcast series, Disrupted: How to Be Gritty and Unlock Performance. This is your chance where I sit down with today's tops in business, mindset, wellness, and success to help you master disruption and thrive.
Thanks for coming, and I'll see you soon.
He's a serial business creator, world-class consultant, international best-selling author, and host of corporate training on cruise en route to the best beaches on the planet. Elite business conversions. His consulting firm transforms businesses to thrive without the owner's involvement. His international best-selling book, Casino Sales Master: Proven Systems to Beat the Odds in Sales and Life, and accompanying coaching course are teaching businesses worldwide to sell the correct way by bringing relationships as an integral portion of the sales system. His clients cut through the omnipresent residue of the 60s sales method, and sales can heal the world. I'm so excited to bring Joseph Rockey Jr. to the podcast. Welcome.
Well, thank you for having me, Lisa. I'm very excited to be here.
I love this conversation about sales can heal the world. So how can we get into the topic of sales? How to get your prospects to never want to lie. I love that topic.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you think about it, since the dawn of humanity, really, I mean, this isn't like a new thing that we messed up in our lifetimes. This has always been that way, that salespeople and their buyers have friction between them as a natural process. And the reason for that is that, historically speaking, and majority speaking, salespeople want to use the buyers to get what they want, to sell my product, to get my commission, etc. And as natural human beings, we all resent the concept of being used. So therefore, base reptilian brain friction, like as raw as it can get. So how do we overcome that problem is a really big challenge, but it's something in which we can do every day. And it goes back to, again, that same reptilian brain. I'm going to describe it in a little bit of a different way, and everyone's going to pick up and know exactly what I mean. You have 6-ish people in your life that you will share anything with. You won't think about it. You'll tell them whatever, good, bad, or ugly, all the aspirations and your dreams. Most people call that your best friends. Everyone else in existence right now has to go through some form of your trust test before you will open up to them. And if you don't believe me, go on to Zimbabwe.com and see if you want to give them your social security number. Because if you truly trusted anyone, you'd have no fear with that. But we all have this natural process of letting people in. And all of us have sensory abilities of looking at each other and determining intuition-wise whether or not I can trust this people or whether I should trust this person. It's why there's some people you just click with and you don't know why. And there's some people that just feel skeevy. You never want to talk to them again. This is all part of that. And not to get in all of the weeds because we only have 20 minutes here, but the long story short is all of us in our lives have gone through some form of trauma. And the way in which we have recovered from that wildly differs from person to person. It's part of the fingerprint DNA that makes you special, however you want to call that. But all of us have those little indicators we look for in others of how are they going to respond to us. And if they responded in that exact perfect way of our healing, we'll trust them immediately. But if they're giving us any form of, oh, that's not how I want to be dealt with, we'll push them away. You do this all in like 6 seconds, by the way. This is instantly and done recognizable, and it's all your subconscious. long story short, you can do exercise plans to be able to make yourself the attractive person that people will trust naturally. And you can do that in repeated motion. And that's a big part of why I get casinos to want to pay me, which is weird because that's not how they're built. And what we teach to our prospects all the time about getting prospects not wanting to lie to you, but actually seeing you succeed. So yeah, that's the little bit of the science behind how we go about and make that claim real.
Wow. So does that work if somebody is giving you sales resistance and if they're perhaps like an emotional buyer or an intellectual buyer, do you have to like sort of size them up to see how you can not turn them off right away?
Well, it's not necessarily sizing anyone up because when you're doing this correctly, you're a magnet and it just attracts the people to you. So, on that note, everyone is an emotional buyer, whether they want to admit it or not. That's another part of the way that your brain is built. What the actual cool part of our decision process is that we go straight to making the decision without checking in with the logic because that's how quick the neuron path is built, and then later after the fact, you will check the logic. That's how your brain works, which is fantastic. So it's not about sizing people up. What it really is being able to be with someone, present in the moment with them, and not coming at them with an emotional trigger response, which is shown in the super micro expressions that you do. And how you overcome this in a simple word, if I was going to boil all my training down to one word, would be vulnerability. Your comfort within your vulnerability and knowing that someone expressing their vulnerability to you, they will be safe. It is a remarkable skill that you have to train yourself to do because most of us have scars all over us that show how you're going to react, and it's not okay.
Wow, that is fantastic to know because I am a huge believer in vulnerability and leadership. And I want to talk about leadership with you too, because I know you're an expert on that topic. So, how can you maximize your employees' potential without breaking the bottom line?
Yeah, so you have to maximize their intention. It's really when you talk about maximizing your employees, it's maximizing the relationship between your business and the employees. And that is to many people a foreign concept altogether. The relationship between your business, which is an entity that doesn't have a heart or a soul or anything, it's just a money making machine, to actual people, is how you have to start this. And the true answer is, how do you motivate them in a meaningful way? Most businesses are actually doing something to their employees that is detracting from that relationship. They're making it harder for you to do your job. I'm not going to let you do X, Y, or Z that you really want to do. Sometimes it's something stupid and trivial. You can't come to work in tennis shoes, or you have to park in the super parking lot that's far away. Like, does that really matter? But those are all little things that build up in individuals being like, I don't really want to deal with this. But the company needs to have you there. So how do they overcome that? They have to overpay you essentially to make you deal with their own problems. So the way that you do this in terms of overcoming the bottom line without breaking the bottom line is you come up with value adds, just as you would for a prospect, that are not extra cost to you. So things like such as having an amazing perk package that is not expensive relative to the return that you get. Again, a perk package is built to have employees want to be with you, be motivated, be better, and stay with you. Well, at the end of the day, if you're doing negative things, like, not to pick on an industry right now, but if you're the life insurance industry, you go and you sell your product, and
Right.
then it goes to an underwriter that you're not allowed to talk to, who then says your client is worthy enough to buy from us at X price. Whether you
Right.
like it or not, that's the world, right? So, as a salesperson selling life insurance, you think you have this sale, and then you find out, oh no, my company doesn't like you enough, so I don't get paid now. That's one of many examples of clients or of companies getting in the way of their clients that they have to overpay for. Well, if you had an ancillary perk that was unique to you, that people would want, they would get value out of, well, then you don't need to fight them in the worlds of overcompensating them, which, oh, by the way, each individual has a price point where their compensation above that has a negative marginal return, meaning that you got to give them even more money to get that same benefit you were. So that's one of the ways to go around it, is have an amazing perk that is unique, that people want to buy into and they want to be a part of. Some people do it with things like president's clubs and stuff of that nature. There's 1,000 of options. I literally just built a company with one of the options. And like I said, it's something that is fantastic, that's how you do it. You get your employees motivated and you take your own problems and don't put them on your employees' lap. But that's what a lot of people do.
Wow. I love your focus on leadership. And I mean, everybody doesn't want to go to another boring yawn fest meetings. So how can we make all of our meetings world class, or is that even possible?
Oh, it's totally possible. It's something in which you really need to have a little bit of a forethought for, though. One of the things that kill meeting effectiveness is the pre-written agenda. Because essentially what a pre-written agenda is, when you put it in front of someone, is you're giving that person an opportunity to check out. Our brains, because of the times we live in, and this is not to say the older generations don't know what's going on, but if you look at this in terms of exposure to information, exposure to things that are drawing our attention,
Yeah.
100 years ago, it basically was the radio, a guy yelling on the corner, and that's about it. Today, your phone never stops buzzing, your email never stops going off, and 500 other notifications are constantly trying to grab your attention. That's your brain starting point. We're all looking for an opportunity to just stop paying attention. Our brains need that. It's part of life. Not to mention the fact we're sleep depriving ourselves like crazy as a result of some of these devices. So when you give someone a pre-written agenda, they're now looking at the items like, I don't need to care about number 2, number 3 doesn't matter. I can check out then. And most of the time, people just get in their own rut as presenting, and they don't even observe the crowd around them. So then they come out of the meeting at the end being like, well, I said everything on the script. I did what I was supposed to. Why didn't it work? Well, it's because you gave them a reason to check out. They did, and you didn't check in with them to make sure it works. And that check-in process is another one of the big steps of making your meetings actually effective and world-class. Like, are you with me? Does this make sense to you? Does this something you want to look at? I mean, they're all just check-ins where a person has an opportunity to say no, to hit their clarification point or whatever, because so many people, especially managers, just assume everyone's on board with them and they'll do it no matter what. And if you don't check in, all you're going to do is create a disconnect. And it doesn't matter what that relationship is. So doing the check-in questions are a radical part of this, including doing what we did before we started this recording today, being very clear as far as this is when the end time is. So making sure that we're not going to have these interruptions come in and cut us off, but actually give fulfilling answers.
Those are great suggestions on not putting the agenda out in front and engaging with people throughout, seeing if they're checking out or if they're doom scrolling or if they're actually physically present. And by being physically present, I want to jump back into sales because I feel like everything is sales. And last question is, how do we get our prospects? How do we really know what their true budget is if we're on a call with somebody?
Yeah. So, I mean, if you're doing the sale call correctly, very, very quickly in the process, you're going to be talking about what is really going on with them. You know, you don't go on no one's ever bought a truck because of 4 wheels and an engine. They bought the truck because it can haul my boat and I can have the best frat weekend ever. Or because, you know what, it really hurts my legs bending down into a sedan, but stepping up into a truck doesn't. I'll never tell my kids that, but I'll do that. But that's really why I'm buying this truck. That is a skill set of being able to relate to someone, trusting them, and diving into the truth of their world. That is what opens up this pathway and really bypasses the budgetary problem, because so many people are in this starting friction that we started this conversation with, where it's a battle. And that battle includes, if you're only going to use me, I'm not going to let you know how much you have. So at least I can protect some of myself from being used. In the world of sales, that's the budget. At least you didn't take all of my money. You only took some of it. Well, if you get to that truth of why they're really going in there, and you are doing checking questions correctly, and you're really swimming in their ocean of emotion, and you know what's real to them, budget doesn't become an issue. It now just becomes a logistical hurdle. But it's not me hiding from you or not wanting to tell you the truth. It's actually, I want to help you, and we can help. We figured out we can help each other. This is great.
Right.
But the problem is we just need to figure out how to do it now. So the best way that I have found is, if you don't tell me the truth here, you're going to have a hole inside of your soul. And it's not necessarily because this particular problem didn't get solved. It's because the conversation that we have been having has actually been real and genuine and meaningful to you. And I can tell you don't say this was true, but I can tell that this is not something you talk about a lot. If you hold back now, you're going to feel an ache with you ongoing that, quite frankly, no amount of money will ever be able to fill. So that being said, what is your actual budget to fix this problem? And you be very direct about it, and they'll tell you. And if they ask, why do I need to tell you that? You go, well, because there's the reality is I am able to solve this problem in a variety of different pathways. And I want to give the one that's best for you. And I need to make sure that we can make it work logistically. And now it's not us fighting about, do I want to pay you or not? Now it's about coming to a solution together just by doing a couple of different changes that are all rooted with being comfortable within the vulnerability of a meaningful conversation with them.
And you do all that in one phone call? Typically?
Sometimes, but oftentimes it's across many. It all depends upon what it is that's going on in their world and what it is that you're trying to accomplish and how much time it takes you to do. You should be able to get to the root of what their real problem is within the first 5 minutes, easily. And then, like I said, it all depends upon where they are at. There are sometimes the so-called objections that we need to fight through that the 1960s methods push are actually real. Sometimes they do need to talk to other people in their life. Sometimes they do need to get other things lined up first. And they're literally only trying to find out. That happens. But when you go to make that meaningful connection with them and actually strike the accord deep in their soul, they're not going to run away from you. They're going to actually want to come back, not just for this purchase, but for the solution to everything moving forward.
Joe, Rockey, you are such a wealth of information on leadership and sales. It's just a pleasure to have you on the podcast. I can go on and on and on forever, but this is a short podcast. So where can people find you and what are you up to in the world?
Well, as I mentioned earlier about talking about motivating your employees, I just launched a business called Elite Business Cruises, and we'll leave the actual link for you here in the description. And what we give for people is really that ultimate carrot for wanting to buy into your business, because there's 20 different motivating factors someone can have about work. The Elite Business Cruise will hit upon all of them. So regardless of whether it's an employee that's really already on board with you or one that's harder to reach, if you put this carrot out in front of them and say, if we accomplish this goal, either as a team or as an individual, you get to come on a cruise with your +1, all you can eat, the premium deluxe beverage package, tips pre-included, the world-class training, going to some of the best beaches in the world, all of a sudden your team just becomes exponentially more profitable. Long story short, production-wise, morale-wise, everything. And the hard to reach ones now have, well, this resonates with me. I want to do this. We believe it is the ultimate earned perk. And it is something that we have seen already is transforming businesses, and it is revolutionary. I mean, you win before you get on the boat. Obviously, you win well on it, and then the results after the fact really do speak for themselves. So it's Elite Business Cruises, and again, the link is here in the description.
Well, thanks for being a great guest on the podcast. I can't wait to check out Elite Business Cruises. Joe Rockey.